Hey guys, congratulations on making it through the first two videos. This is the video 3 of 4 for Hacking for Defense, the DoD primer. We're going to talk about DoD barriers to innovation in this video. This is something that you will encounter as you go through this process, but take heart. Many DoD professionals, including many of the folks that you will talk to, your project sponsors, the users that you interview, may have words of wisdom in how to encounter or maneuver around these things. All right, so some of the barriers that you're going to encounter, the first of which is the infamous valley of death. So there is a big chasm between users and buyers. To get something from, even if it's a commercially available solution, to the end user on the ground, at the tip of the spear, is a long journey. So if you look up DoD valley of death, you'll see a lot of things about different companies making it, different companies not making it. They call people that do make it survivors if they make it from startup to a DoD program of record. But basically what this is addressing is the acquisition process, right? It is a slog to get from even commercially available product or prototype through to a DoD contract that's going to give something then to the end user. What you'll notice is that buyers and users are different people. So the DoD is supposed to form these acquisition teams, and these acquisition teams consist of experts in contracting, legal, government budgeting, pricing and analysis, etc. What's often missing from that equation is users. So as you move through this and you're doing beneficiary discovery, something to definitely think about is how much user input you're getting, how much user input is your project sponsor getting, as you can come, so that you can hopefully cross this chasm and come up with a user-friendly solution. The next that we're going to talk about is fear of failure. So the DoD has an up and out promotion system. So you either are succeeding and you're being promoted to the next rank that you saw in the first video, or you're going to get thanked for your service and you're going to exit the military, whether that's voluntarily or not. So there is a fear of failure that leads to people wanting to be, or leads to people being risk averse, to leads to people avoiding risks. So you have to think about that when you look at minimum viable products and address the risks appropriately. Another thing is uncertainty on what does the definition of success look like. Maybe buyers have one definition of success and users have another. And again, that contributes to fear of failure and again, risk intolerance. The DoD is transitionary by nature, right? So I'm here as the Marine Officer Instructor at the University of Florida. In 2 years, there'll be somebody else here. 2 years after that, there'll be somebody else. And there's not a ton of continuity. We do a quick turnover, but it's significantly different from, say, a faculty member here at the University of Florida and how long they'll be around, or any given member at a place like Lockheed Martin or any kind of company where they're going to be there for several years. So that culture leads to a lack of follow through. So maybe somebody starts something, but that falls off after so-and-so moves on. So that's something to think about when you're talking to your project sponsors and when you're talking to the users, is how there can be permanence built into any given solution. Middle management inertia, it's a problem in the civilian world and also is a problem in the DoD. So risk taking isn't necessarily always rewarded. You hear the saying, "Don't rock the boat." However, there's ways to come over it. The most frequent one that I've seen is analysis paralysis, we call it. So instead of making a decision, we hold off and we hold off and we hold off, and then the government has certain timelines for things to get budgeted for money, or certain timelines for things to get approved to go into a requirements document, and then we missed that mark. And now, because we were trying to do more analysis and think on it and push the decision back, maybe we miss it. Now we have to wait until the next fiscal year. So again, middle management inertia, for me personally, as a middle management Marine Corps officer, is a big one that needs to be overcome. Another barrier is requirements overload. And so when we talk about requirements overload, we're not talking about what we'll talk to in the fourth video, the requirements document itself. But we're talking about the process, and then what are the essential requirements. So again, what is the definition of success? What requirements need to be met for this project to be a success? Because if we list every single requirement, we're going to saturate that decision maker, and we're never going to eventually reach a decision. Everything has to be evaluated from a cost benefit standpoint. And then the DoD acquisition process is quite cumbersome. So all the requirements to get through the milestones, the reviews, the approvals, the concurrences, et cetera. That internal process can overload decision makers and lead to a barrier for the DoD to be able to innovate. The DoD is a closed system, right? So you guys will quickly recognize as electrical engineers, computer science professionals, and mechanical engineers, what have you, that the people that you're working with may not have direct access to someone with your level of knowledge in your particular area. If you're working with a member of a Marine reconnaissance battalion, they don't have electrical engineers and mechanical engineers at the ready there to solve that problem. So there'll be some translational issues that we talked about in the first video, but also our systems, right? So the DoD gets closed systems. We get technology fielded to us that we might not own the intellectual property for. We don't have the intellectual property rights to even to modify it without removing some kind of warranty or taking on some kind of additional risk. So integrating something as simple as some commercial software into a computer system for a vehicle will encounter some difficulties in the DoD. And then the acquisition process itself, I've alluded to it a few times as we've been here talking about our different barriers, but the acquisition process is quite cumbersome. It's slow, it's risk averse. It looks for a good enough standard, does not look for a good enough standard. It tries to look for a perfect solution. So if you look at the F-35 today, is something that in the acquisitions community we talk about a lot. That thing has been in development for decades, and it's still running into issues out there in the fleet. With the most recent thing in the news being something about an ejection seat. So when you look at this acquisitions process, it realizes that it is a barrier, and there are innovative solutions out there. People like AFWERX, people like Kessel Run that are doing interesting things and different things, and there's authorities out there that'll let the DoD maneuver within the process and do things legally and get users the right technology a little bit faster. So just recapping the barriers that we went over today, there's the valley of death. Between the solution and the user, there's a wide valley. Between the user and the buyer, there's a wide valley. The DoD has some cultural barriers as well. So we're transitionary by nature. We have a fear of failure that leads to a lot of risk aversion, inertia in middle management, just like anywhere, but particularly in the DoD, combined with the fear of failure and risk aversion, leads to some significant inertia. Requirements overload because of the system, and then our closed system where we have these things that modification itself becomes a barrier. I'll see you guys for the fourth video. We're going to go over the DoD acquisition system in a little bit more depth.